I wanted to show you this again up close so you can see these joints. This is basically what a smooth solder joint looks like. As you can see, there was a pretty good gap here, and the solder is kind of stretching its way across there. The better you get at making real accurate, very well fitting lead joints, the better your soldering is going to look. So don't be disappointed if you seem to be making some rough spots right off the bat. You'll get better and better at soldering. It'll get smoother for you. So I have fluxed my soldering iron, I've heated it up again, and I've tinned it again, and I'm ready to work on the piece a little bit more. I've done a couple of joints just to show you. You're basically going to hit every place where lead comes together. And remember, you're going to flux it first. So for example, I'm next going to do these joints here. And soldering, the word solder in Latin means putting something together, holding something together. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're really just sealing up this piece by putting the solder down sort of as a glue. Remember, the motion is you're basically just tapping it up and down. See, that joint is nearly invisible because it's simply a small coating that keeps two pieces of lead together. Now with lead solder, you're just doing the up and down motion. It's really different from the copper foil method. With the copper foil method, you actually push the solder around, but with lead, you're just tapping it up and down. Now with lead, less is more. If you have a blob of solder that rolls off your lead and onto the glass, see what you can do to pick it up again. Basically, we don't want it on the glass. We want to move it back up into position. Now, one thing you can do if you have a blob of it and you can't get it up, you can try and snip that a little bit later. But it's easier to not put too much solder down so that you don't have to deal with it. Now I was able to just pick that right back up and put it right into position, so great. Now if you find yourself with a lump of solder that just doesn't look quite nice, you can go over it. So again, give it a little bit more flux. You're going to remelt it and just kind of pick it up and put it down again and see how it flows. Nice. Now don't be concerned that there's a big shiny spot here, there, and everywhere, because part of the finishing is to make all the lead and the solder the same color. Okay, now I've got all my joints done. I'm going to smooth this one a little bit more by remelting and tapping it down. I'm going to go ahead and put my soldering iron down and flip the work over. Now, one tip to give you if you are working with something huge in the future. You want to be really careful when you flip over a big stained glass window. With this, it's no problem. But with something bigger, you're going to be real careful to pick it up by the least width side. So if it's a real long piece, don't start at the long end. And then you're going to be really, really careful about putting your hands under and supporting it. And mostly what the window wants to do is be stored like this. Okay, it doesn't want a lot of weight on it. It doesn't want to be stored like that. Again, this is a very light piece, so it's not a problem. I can see on this side that this piece is a little short, and so I'm going to have to get a little bit of lead to patch that because the solder just won't reach that distance. Okay, so just go back over and look for real rough spots. You can remelt them and re-smooth them. You're looking for the worst of the wrinkles or maybe a flat area. You really want some kind of shape that, I guess it resembles like a centipede. Something kind of flat but kind of rounded at the same time and as unnoticeable as possible. Now, one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few loops so that I can hang this in the window. So I'm just going to wrap some wire around the pencil. And I'm going to snip a few loops out of that. So first I'm going to flux my little loop. The other ones will... Actually, come to think of it, I'm going to trim. I have a little extra stuff here. Trim that right off. So as you can see, it's dirty, but it's done. I've got a couple of loops in place. I'm going to take it to my sink and wash off that flux with my sponge here. Remember, you don't want to use a sponge that you're going to use on your dishes. And then I'll be ready for the next step. And the next step is basically I'm going to putty it. I'm going to make it so no piece can wiggle. And I'm going to even out the color of the metal and make it look like one finished, polished piece. Remember with soldering, less is more. On lead, you want to hide your solder joints as much as possible so that they're unnoticeable. And remember, it's going to be better looking when it's all one color. But if you find yourself with blobs of solder that kind of come over to the glass, just try to pick them up with your soldering iron, wipe your soldering iron on your sponge, and then go after a little bit more until you've taken some of it up, and that'll look better. And don't worry, you'll get better and better at this. Okay, so just one more thing. You are going to wash your project, get the flux off, and you're going to wash your own hands, right? You've been handling lead. Also, before you walk away from your workstation, always know that your soldering iron is unplugged and cooling down.